Now, looking at question 8, part 2, what we're going to be doing now is something that's very similar to the end of an exam style question for something like this. So for most of the questions that you're going to have to do, you're going to follow steps very like this, like what we did for part 1. In question 8, part 2, we're effectively going to do the same exact steps, but in reverse. And that's going to require us to think through our equations a little bit more carefully because we have to work backwards. So in question 8, part 2, we're told that this person has gotten a raise, Orla has gotten a raise, and her new net income is 33,500. So we found out at the end of the last part that her income was 31,900. She's now gotten a raise, and she now has a net income. The income she gets to take home is 33,500. So what we're going to have to do is follow the steps backwards to get back to our original amount of money. So let's write out each formula in turn. We can see the different formulas that we used the last time we were doing these questions, and let's see what information we've got. We still have the tax credit, the standard rate cutoff point, and our tax rates are still going to be the same from part 1. So we have that information here. The only thing that's changed is our net income and our gross income. Now, let's write out what we know about net income. We know that the net income is equal to the gross income minus our net tax. Well, we know what the net income is. It's 33,500. That's good. We want the gross income, so we like that we have an equation that it has those two in it. But we don't know the net tax now because the amount of money we're earning has changed. The amount of tax we have to pay has also changed. So we don't know our net tax. So what we're going to have to do is find out what our net tax is. Well, we have a formula for the net tax. We know that the net tax is equal to our gross tax. Our gross tax minus our tax credit. Well, this is good. We now have net tax, and we know what our tax credit is. It's still our 1,650, but we have a problem. We don't know what our gross tax is. So now we can see we are missing our gross tax. Well, what is our gross tax? Our gross tax is our tax at 20% up to our standard rate cutoff point, plus our tax at 40%. Well, again, we've made progress because we know what the tax rate is up to 20%. The standard rate cutoff point has not changed. So if I redraw my diagram, and always do this when you're working out your 20% rate and your 40% rate, I have my tax at 40% and my tax at 20%, and this is my standard rate cutoff point. Up to here is my 35,300. That has not changed since part 1. So this amount of tax, my tax at 20%, is going to be identical to what it was in part 1. It's just going to be 35,300, the first 35,300 that I earn, and I want to get 20% of that, and I already worked out that that is 7,060 euro. So that's perfect. Now here, for my tax at 40%, my higher rate of tax, I have to do what? I had my gross income minus my standard rate cutoff point, and I got 40% of that. Well, I can still write that out, but I don't know what my gross income is now, so I have to write gross income minus 35,300, and I want to get 40% of that. That is the amount of money I have to pay at 40%, at the higher rate of tax. This is the amount of money I have to pay at the lower rate of tax. So my gross tax, which I need to find in order to be able to find what I'm eventually looking for, is going to be my tax at 20% plus my tax at 40%, which is my gross income, minus 35,300, and 40 over 100 I'm going to write as 0.4. So this is my tax at 20% plus my tax at 40% adds up to my gross tax, exactly the same as I had in this question here. I just don't know my gross income, so I have to write it in this algebraic form. Now, I don't like having these brackets here. I need to simplify this so I can sub it into more equations and make progress. So I'm going to have my gross tax is equal to my 7,600 plus, I have a number outside a bracket, I multiply it by each thing inside, so 0.4 times my gross income minus 0.4 times 35,300 is minus 14,120. So my gross tax is equal to 0.4 times my gross income minus 7,060. Subtract these two away from each other. So this is my gross tax. I now have my gross tax. I can use it to find out what my net tax is. So my net tax is equal to 0.4 times my gross income minus 7,060. My gross tax minus my tax credit. Well, what's my tax credit? I found out in part 1, or I read from part 1, that it's 1,650. And I can simplify that as well. I put this bracket because I was subbing in, but it isn't multiplied by anything, so 0.4 times my gross income. I subtract these two things from each other, and I get minus 8,710. This is my net tax. So I've now simplified my net tax, so I can sub in here, and now I'm getting very close to the end. So I have my net income, I'm going to rewrite it here, is equal to my gross income minus my net tax. I have just found out an expression for my net tax and simplified it. So my net income is 33500 is equal to my gross income, which I am looking for, minus 0.4, sorry, subbing something in, put it in brackets, GI for gross income minus 8,710. So multiply out that bracket and I get GI gross income minus 0.4 times my gross income plus 8,710. Now this is just a little bit of algebra. My GI is essentially just an X, and you can write in X here if you feel more comfortable with it that way. So I have 1 GI minus 0.4 GI, so I end up with 0.6 times my gross income. Plus 8,710. Now I need to rearrange to get at my gross income by itself, so I'm going to subtract 8,710 from both sides, and I get 4790 is equal to 0.6 GI. I want to get GI by itself, so I must divide by 0.6. And I get 41316.66 recurring, so I round that to 2 decimal places because I'm dealing with money. It's equal to my gross income, and I don't forget my euro sign, and that is my gross income. Now the steps in this are again critical. I'm told my net income. I write down the formula for how I get net income. It's net income is equal to gross income minus net tax. I don't know net tax, so I work backwards. Net tax is equal to gross tax minus my tax credit. I don't know gross tax, so my gross tax is equal to the tax at 20% plus the higher rate of tax at 40%. I work out what each of those things are, and then I work back up through my formulas to get back to my gross income. Now, I am not stating that this question is easy, but it is something you need to be able to do. So we need to practice it and make sure that you can do them as well as possible. And that is the skills that we need for now.